My name is Carla Sandoval. I am the Homebuyer Program Manager here at Habitat for Humanity, and I'm the one hosting these classes. I just wanted to, again, just in case anybody missed it, please put in the chat your name, and then also if you have any questions throughout the meeting, feel free to put them in the chat. So now I will invite our presenters for this. So today we're having two classes. The first is and so I'll have them introduce themselves just shortly. And then after this, at 7, we'll be having our identity theft class. So we'll have a little break in between like last time, and that'll be all. So if you, Barbara and Tina, if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, my name is Barbara Pratt. I live in Bryan College Station, born and raised here, and have been in the banking industry for over 40 years, so a long time. And then I'll let Tina introduce herself.
I'm Tina Rosati, manager at our Welsh location for Amarillo National Bank here in College Station. I grew up here, wasn't born here, but grew up here. This is home. I have been in banking for almost 30 years. And I love it.
We've been around a long time. Okay, this is kind of a basic banking 101. A lot of you may already bank somewhere. So if you have banking questions in regard to situations that you've had with your bank, as we get to certain topics, if you'd like to ask us a question, that would be great. Can you hear me okay? Okay. All righty, let's get started. Okay, what we want to talk about here, and Tina and I are going to kind of do this together, so as I say some things, she may think of something she wants to throw in and vice versa. But as you know, choosing a bank, there's a bank on every corner practically, but all banks are different. So it's always good to shop around when you're getting ready to choose a bank. So we're going to talk about choosing a bank, methods of banking, personal preference of products that are available, and then different factors for you to consider when you pick your bank.
Hoy lo que va a hablar Tina y Barbara es la información básica de un banco. Entonces, cómo escoger un banco, qué productos ellos ofrecen y nomás información básica para los que puede ser que no tengan una cuenta de cheques todavía, nomás un poco más de eso.
There's several things to look at when you're trying to choose a bank. A location, whether it's convenient for you, for your job or your home or both. And how many locations they have, when you're running errands around town or on your lunch hour trying to get there. The products that they have, just about every bank has some kind of free checking product, and they all vary a little bit. So it's just going to be, what's going to suit your needs the best. If you like to be able to view your things online and not have to go to the bank very often, their online banking and the capabilities that you have there, it can be a deciding factor for you as well. And how user-friendly the apps are can help you make those decisions also.
Ahora, para escoger un banco hay unas cosas diferentes que tienen que pensar. Entonces lo primero es en la locación. Entonces si tienen un banco y ustedes van a estar viajando mucho, puede ser que eso sea un factor importante en escoger un banco. También la conveniencia. Entonces hay muchos bancos hoy en día que pueden usar aplicaciones en su teléfono o pueden checar en línea su información. Entonces tienen que ver la conveniencia de los diferentes bancos y lo que quieren ustedes.
Right, so another thing that you just kind of have to ask yourself, how do you like to bank? Do you like to bank in person? Do you prefer to do online banking? So when we say shop around and get referrals, what we're saying there, again, there's a bank practically on every corner. All banks are different. The basics are the same. The regulations are the same for all banks, but every bank will have their own unique products and things that they have to offer their customer. So do not hesitate to go in and just visit with one of their banking representatives about their products to get details on it, and talk to your family and friends in regard to who they bank with and what kind of experience they have had with them.
Ahora, una información que también tienen que pensar cuando están escogiendo un banco es cómo quieres que sea tu banco. ¿Quieres que sea, prefieres ir en persona y hablar con los diferentes clientes y los que están ahí trabajando? ¿O prefieres mejor con el internet, algo que puedas nomás fácilmente checar en línea? Y también lo que ellas recomiendan es para escoger un banco, tratar de buscar en diferentes áreas, preguntarle a su familia, a amigos, personas que puedan dar recomendaciones de cuál es un banco que ellos usen.
So you found a bank, now what do? You've got to decide if you're looking for a checking account where you can pay your bills, cash checks, go get money as often as you want to, if that's going to suit what it is that you're needing to do. If you're going to need just a savings account, somewhere to park your money, to put, your down payment, save up for home improvement, save up for Christmas. Certificates of deposits are available at all banks as well, and they can range anywhere from 30 days out to 5 years, depending on the bank. Every bank's a little bit different on that. Sometimes, you can open them with as little as $500 or $1,000, and you put the funds in there and they have to stay in there for a certain length of time. The interest rates are typically a little bit higher on the CDs because you can't touch the money. You're not supposed to touch the money while it's in there. If you say that you're going to put it in there for 6 months, if you take it out before then you can get penalized for that. Are you looking to get a loan? Are you trying to buy a new car? Are you needing, vacation funds, things like that? Or what other services are you looking for at the bank? Being able to get gift cards, get cashier's checks or money orders, and the online banking services.
Ahora que encontraste un banco, tienen que preguntarse qué productos necesitan abrir. Entonces, una cuenta de cheque es básicamente lo más regular que ellos ofrecen, es donde pueden depositar los cheques de su trabajo y de ahí pueden usar ese dinero. O puede ser que también necesiten una cuenta de ahorros, que quieren empezar a guardar dinero, entonces quieren abrir esa cuenta. Un préstamo, también obviamente ellos ofrecen préstamos. ¿Y qué otros servicios bancarios necesitan ustedes? Ahorros, pero no pueden sacar dinero cualquier tiempo que ustedes quieran, tienen que esperar algún cierto tiempo. Entonces, si quieren hacer una cuenta de ahorros, si no quieren tocar ese dinero, lo que se llama una CD es una buena opción para eso.
This is kind of a little repeat. I may just kind of flip through it, but again, just the services are checking, savings, lending services. Again, knowing what you're looking for and why you need the accounts that you do, your checking account can help you manage and control your financial situation. At least with the checking account, if you put $500 into that checking account, and if you would keep your check register, I know that's an old-fashioned way of keeping track of your money, but it is very helpful so that when you write a check or use the debit card, you have that little check register in there to subtract your money out, and every day where you stand on funds. A checking account will help you pay your bills more efficiently if you're not paying them online. Some people don't care to get online and do their bills that way. They still want to write the check, so they have proof of payment, and so they use their checking account for that. Checking accounts, there's free checking accounts. And when I say free, it means there's no minimum balance to the checking account that you have to keep. And there are no monthly service fees with that checking account. So wherever you bank or wherever you are shopping for a checking account, if that is what you want, it's just something simple and easy, ask them about a free checking account. And then, of course, there are checking accounts that are interest bearing, which means the banks will pay you some percentage of interest on the checking account. And typically on the interest bearing checking accounts, there's different things you may have to do to qualify to get the interest on the account. You know, maybe that you have to keep a certain balance in there, or maybe you have to use a debit card so many times a month, or have one direct deposit. So if you're looking to put your money in an interest-bearing checking account, let them explain to you what you need to do each month so that your account qualifies for the interest.
Ahora, cuando ya escogió su banco, ahora qué tipo de cuenta necesita. La que había dicho que es lo más común es una cuenta de cheques. Entonces, eso le ayuda a manejar su dinero y controlar su situación financiera, porque ahí tiene el directo control de su dinero y puede estar checando en dónde está gastando y todo eso. También una cuenta de cheques le puede ayudar a pagar sus biles más fácilmente, porque no tiene que sacar dinero, no tiene que hacer una cuenta, un money order o algo así. Nomás va y puede pagar sus biles con su tarjeta de débito, en línea. Hay diferentes tipos de cuentas de cheques. La que es más común es la cuenta de cheques que es gratis. Básicamente esto nomás significa que no tiene que tener un específico dinero ahí, tiene que tener nada especial, pero si quiere una cuenta que sí gana interés, básicamente es una cuenta de cheques que el banco le paga a usted dependiendo de cuánto dinero tenga ahí. Esta obviamente es un poco más diferente porque puede ser que tenga diferentes requerimientos, como tener un balance específico ahí, por lo menos, o usar la tarjeta de débito un cierto número de veces o cosas así. Entonces, cuando vaya al banco, pregúntales de cuáles son los requerimientos y cuáles son las diferentes opciones para esta cuenta.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
Just the one?
Mhm.
Okay. Account types, there's more than just the account itself, you know, using a debit card versus checks versus using a credit card. A debit card, there's a couple ways that you can use that at the merchant. You're going to use it with your PIN number. It'll allow you to get money out of the ATM with that PIN number as well. Or you can push credit at the vendor and it processes. But ultimately, no matter which way you do it, it comes out of your checking account. So whatever you've got in your checking account balance, that's what it's going to look for when you're trying to make those purchases. And you typically either are going to use that online or you're going to use it physically in a store. Checks, you're just going to write those out. Whether you're writing those, you know, to pay for something for a school fundraiser, or you're sending your rent or your utilities in. And that again is going to come out of your checking account. And credit cards is a line of credit. It's not using your checking account balance. It's going to have a preset limit on there that you can do as far as purchases. You're going to pay interest instead of getting paid interest. When you do those transactions, if you don't, and you know, you're going to have interest if you don't pay that bill in full every month when you get those statements in. Overdraft protection, there's a couple different ways that banks do overdraft protection. Some banks will give you just a preset amount that will automatically allow you to use your debit card or checks or electronic payments up to a certain dollar amount. You're still going to incur overdraft fees with those overdraft limits as well. Or you can connect your checking and your savings account and use your savings account balance as overdraft protection for your checking account, where it'll move money over in specific increments if you were to overdraw your checking account. Fees for overdrawing your account, the bank is going to charge you a fee if you've got an item that's presented on insufficient funds. Whether they pay it or they return it, you're going to incur that fee. And it can range anywhere from $19 up to $35. And that overdraft fees can happen on checking and savings accounts. It's not just a checking fee. You can have auto debit set up on savings accounts that can cause an overdraft fee as well because it's presented and there's not enough money in there. Checking or savings accounts, you know, sometimes you're going to have a fee to set it up to be overdraft protection. Some banks do it for free, like our bank, but some banks can charge you upwards to $10 or $12 a month for each transfer that it does.
I'm going to see if this can, if we push this, will it go back? Let me see. I don't want to see. No, I just wanted to be sure we didn't skip over anything. One of the things on like the checking account features, some checks you get free. Some banks offer free checks, most do not. So you can order them through the bank or you can order them on Current online. You can get your checks wherever you want. You don't have to purchase them through the bank. The debit card, there is no fee for having the debit card. Now, if you continuously come to the bank to have the debit card replaced because you lose it all the time, at some point they'll probably start charging you a fee for a new debit card. Online banking is a free feature. And I love online banking because in today's world, there's so much fraud now that happens. I look at my bank account every morning and I look at it every evening to see, you know, if what I did during the day is showing up, and knowing that nothing new has shown up that I didn't do, so that I could dispute it. And then of course you have your choice of statements. E-statements, they just email you telling them they're ready for you to go online and you can pull the statements yourself. Most banks will have up to 18 months of statements on file for you, so you can go back 18 months and pull different statements, or you can still receive your statements in paper form.
Ahora, tipo de cuentas que se pueden ofrecer. Obviamente, con la cuenta de banco pueden tener diferentes cheques. Entonces, si casi siempre dice ella que los cheques no los ofrecen gratis. Entonces, si quieren si ustedes saben que van a necesitar cheques, entonces compre eso. La tarjeta de débito, perdón, es bueno tener esa opción de poder checar en línea o en su teléfono que su cuenta. Entonces dice ella que ella checa su cuenta en las mañanas y en las noches, nomás para asegurar que no vaya a haber ningún fraude y que todas las transacciones que ella hizo estén ahí. Y también pueden escoger si quieren recibir los estados de cuenta en papel o nomás en línea. Dice que los bancos típicamente reservan los últimos 18 meses de sus cuentas. Entonces, si quieren hacer eso, pueden. Si necesitan esa información, pueden ir a su banco para agarrar eso o en línea.
Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Savings accounts, there's a couple different ways to save money. A basic savings account is sometimes called a passbook savings account. And you're limited to the number of times that you can take money out. The interest rate is typically not very high. You can put money in it as often as you want to, but you are limited on the number of times that you can get money out. Some banks it's on a monthly basis, and some banks it's on a quarterly basis. On a basic passbook savings account, your statements typically are going to be quarterly, and you have to maintain a minimum balance, and that can be anywhere from $30 as a minimum balance up to $100. Some banks used to be a little bit higher than that, but I think that $100 is about average now for that minimum balance. If you drop below that, then you get a service charge on that account as well. Certificates of deposits, those are fixed terms and set dollar amounts that you have to at least start it with. The money has to stay in there until the maturity. So if you do a 30-day CD, you're not supposed to touch that or take that out for that 30 days. You'll have a 10-day grace period with most banks that you can take the money out before it's locked in for another 30 days. But you can do, from most banks, 30 days out to 5 years. The longer term that you go, the farther out that you go, the higher the interest rate typically is. But you get to kind of pick and choose based on what your needs are and how long you're comfortable keeping that money tied up and what you're saving that money for. If you do take the money out early, there is a penalty on it. Sometimes that can go into the principal amount that you deposited. The higher interest rates on CDs typically over what you're going to see on a savings account, and sometimes higher than what you'll see on a money market account. Money market accounts is kind of a combination of a checking and a savings. You can write checks on it, but you are limited to the number of transactions that you can do taking money out of the account. You can write up to 6 checks or 6 withdrawals per month. Higher interest rate than a basic savings account in most cases. And you can have direct deposit set up in there. You can do the same thing for the savings account. It typically gives you a little bit more of an advantage for having a little bit higher balance in the accounts.
I have a question.
Okay.
What's the best way to figure out? I've heard people talk about their savings growing in interest, like the bank is giving you, I guess, money to have your savings in there. What's the best way to figure out which banks offer that? Do you have to just call and ask, or?
You would, because like, again, every bank, has their own unique products. They'll have just the basic savings, but then they may have special types of savings where they may, to get you to come open, they may give you $100 to open the savings account and then pay you interest per month. Typically, those are promotions, so they're not always available. But I hope that I understood your question right, that the savings, again, every bank does things a little bit different. Like at our bank, we're with A&B, it used to be Commerce National, and we just have the basic passport, the CDs, and the money market. And I'll be honest with you right now, interest rates are very low. The rates we're showing on the screen there are actually a little higher than what they are right now. The feds have kind of locked the base rate, so banks are getting money for less cost, but then we can't turn around and pay more because of the cost of us getting that money. So right now, interest rates are low. If you're really looking for something that's going to maybe give you a higher return on your money, that your savings, you can, work with like an Edward Jones or a Charles Schwab, like an investment or financial institution. They invest it in the stock market in mutual funds or CDs. The only difference there is that you may not have the insurance that insures your account should something happen. And those balances will fluctuate day to day depending on what the market is doing. Whereas with the bank, your money is insured. We also offered the HSA or health savings account. So if you go to work for a company that has high deductible insurance, you qualify to open a health savings account, and you can put money into that before you're taxed each month. So that does help you on your income tax if you're putting money into a health savings account. And of course, the money in there can only be used for health reasons. And they usually give you a little booklet or some information showing you where that money can go.
And you said that was specifically to your bank, the ABA or?
The HSA health savings accounts. We do them. I would imagine that most banks would offer those, just kind of like IRAs for retirement accounts.
Okay.
And you could just ask your bank, do you have health savings?
Okay.
Like last year, I was on a high deductible insurance. My deductible was like $6,000 and something just for me. But I was able to put a little money, just $40 a month into this health savings plan before I was taxed on my paycheck. And then as that money was saved, I use it for prescriptions, doctor visits,
Right.
like that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just gonna translate the
Okay.
question. Just so una pregunta que ella tuvo es la cuenta de ahorros, que hay unas cuentas que ellos te pagan como interés, entonces ayuda para que ahorres más dinero. Entonces ella dice que nomás depende de cada banco la cuenta de ahorros que ellos tengan y el tipo de interés, el porciento de interés, perdón, que ellos ofrecen, nomás depende de cada banco. Entonces tiene que llamar al banco que usted tiene o que quiere tener o checar en línea para esa información. Pero todas las cuentas de ahorros son diferentes, entonces nomás tiene que ver exactamente lo que quiere. Típicamente las que ganan interés, esas no puede sacar dinero hasta algún tiempo, entonces es mejor porque no puede tocar ese dinero. pero si algo pasa, obviamente no pueden sacar el dinero así nomás. Entonces depende de qué necesiten ustedes.
Did we answer the question that you had on that
April.
savings?
Did we? answer the
Yes,
question?
yes, thank you.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have an HSA with my employer, which they take so much money out, and I have the card. Now, how can you incorporate that if banks do offer an HSA and you have one with your employer?
Okay. Your employer is parking that money somewhere. And typically
Right.
it's kind of like, probably like an IRA retirement account. I would imagine you would go to your bank and you would do a request for transfer, and you would take it to your employer, and I guess whoever's holding the money, whatever institution is holding the money, they would transfer then that funds directly to the bank that you open the new HSA account with. So you might talk to your employer and just ask them that if you found a local bank that you wanted to put your money into, how would you go about transferring that? Because you really can't just close out that account and not put it somewhere else without some kind of documentation, because when it comes time to do your taxes, your
Right.
employer is going to give you that form that says, oh, well, she took this money out and you hadn't been taxed on it. So if you don't have proof from the new place that you put the money directly somewhere else, then you could get hit with some tax, consequences there. But you should be able to move your money. I mean, we have customers that'll open with us and they may move and open at another bank, and that bank sends us a letter just saying they're requesting that this account be transferred to that bank. And so we close the account and we transfer it to their new HSA.
Okay, so you can't have two.
No, you can't have two. And you have a
Okay.
limit as to what you can put in there,
Right.
the single SHA or a family HSA.
Mhm.
You have limits as to what you can contribute into that. But that money is with you forever. I mean, even if you left your job and maybe never had a high and deductible insurance anymore, as long as you have money in that account, you can use it and you can save it till you're older. My thought was that I was going to build that up, and then when I retired, I'd have a good account to use
Right.
for my medical expenses.
Right.
Of course, things happen, but anyway,
course.
it was a good thought. I'm still trying to
Yeah.
work on that.
So your bank offer the HSA?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And it
And
does
what's
earn
the
a little bit of interest.
Yes, just a little bit of interest. but
also it
earns
does earn
a
interest.
little bit of
Yeah.
interest. It does.
Okay.
Yes.
And we allow checks and debit cards on our HSAs.
Okay. All right. Now wait, one more question.
Oh,
I am
okay.
getting ready to renew my insurance. So even though I continue to have my HSA, if I decide I want to go to your bank and bank with you, and then I can still transfer at any time.
Right. You can move your HSA.
At
And
any
if you
time.
get a different insurance that's not a high deductible, then they're not going to let you contribute anymore to the HSA.
Right,
You can only do
right.
that if you have a high deductible insurance.
Yeah, and I haven't had.
Yeah.
Well, and those are definitely some questions to ask your employer, because you want to be sure that they have the capability to make those deposits for you into that account directly out
Okay.
of your payroll. And they may have something set up, with the insurance. But since you're
Right.
getting ready to go through that enrollment, it's a great time to ask those questions.
Right. Because
Okay.
being that you're doing all of that through your employer and they're taking out the money and they're putting it somewhere for you, there
Mhm.
may be some stipulations on how that's set up as to whether you can move it or not. Like
Okay.
if you'd have just come to the bank and opened it yourself, then you have control over moving that money if you want to.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so with a debit card, it functions two ways for you. It allows you to get cash at the ATM. So if you don't want to swing by the bank and see us and say hello every once in a while, you can just go to the automatic teller machine and tell it how much money you want. Those machines have limits on how much it'll dispense at any time. They can range anywhere from $300 that it'll let you get to $1,000. Just depends on the bank and the owner of the machine. Your debit card is also going to have a limit as to how much cash you can get a day. Most ATM cards are set up for $500 max a day. That goes back to your bank and what their limits are. Your debit card also can be used to make purchases. So go to HEB or Kroger and get your groceries. You swipe your card, it comes directly out of your checking account. It's not a credit card. It is working on the balance in your checking account. But a credit card is going to pull from a line of credit. But that debit card is going to pull, it's just like pulling cash out of your checking account. It puts it on hold as soon as you swipe that card. Credit cards could have more consumer protections on them. As far as, some credit cards offer warranties on purchases that you make with that card. They'll give you an additional warranty on it. So if it breaks in 90 days or what have you, the credit card company will refund you instead of you having to go back to the company that sold you the product. Debit cards don't quite function that way. They don't have that kind of warranty protection on them.
Ahora con la tarjeta de débito, obviamente la puede usar en diferentes tiendas. Si quiere sacar dinero, puede ir a un ATM. Dice que dependiendo del banco puede tener un límite de cuánto dinero puede sacar en efectivo, pero nomás depende de su cuenta. Entonces, es como una tarjeta de crédito que puedes usarla en donde sea, pero la diferencia es que puedes sacar dinero en efectivo. Y obviamente tienen que tener ese dinero en su cuenta.
Okay, when you go into a bank and to open a checking account for the first time, there are certain things that we have to have from you, very minimal, but we do have to have a valid, not expired picture, government issued ID, whether it's a state ID or a driver's license. We do run not a credit bureau, but a check systems report is run when you're opening a checking account. And check systems, what that is it's a banking history reporting agency. So let's say you banked somewhere 3 years ago and you ran into a little issue and you closed the account there, but it had a negative balance that you didn't take care of. That's reported to check systems and it stays on for 5 years before it falls off. Some banks will not open an account if you have an outstanding charged off checking account. They don't have a product to offer. Some banks will have what they call a second chance checking. Ours is called success checking. So we do have a checking account for those that maybe had an issue some time back, but they're trying to reestablish themselves. It seems like now most jobs want you to have a bank somewhere so they can do direct deposit of your paycheck. So we found that it would be good to be able to help people, have that second chance of having that checking account. You don't typically get to write checks on those. You only get a debit card and there's no overdraft protection, but that only protects you from getting in that situation again. But check systems is what is used by all banks when they are opening a bank account for the first time.
Cuando está abriendo una cuenta de cheques o una cuenta con un banco, dice que piden dos cosas. La primera es que tenga una forma de identificación, aunque sea válida. Entonces, van a pedir eso cuando vayas al banco. Y también otra cosa que ellos checan es lo que llama con el sistema checks, que básicamente nomás, si ha tenido una cuenta de banco antes, checa ese récord que usted tiene y ese récord lo tiene ahí por 5 años. Entonces, es nomás para asegurar que sean un buen cliente pero hay muchos bancos que hoy en día ofrecen lo que llaman una segunda chance, entonces no necesariamente lo van a denegar así automáticamente, entonces es una cosa que ellos checan.
Okay. FDIC insurance. What it is, it's Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. What it does is it protects you, the consumer, if the bank fails. So when you're looking for a checking account, it's always a good idea to look for a bank that does have FDIC insurance. If the bank fails or they're forced to close, it'll cover an account owner up to $250,000. It applies to checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs, and money market accounts. It's not going to cover investment accounts or anything that you have in your safety deposit box. So jewelry, cash, things like that, if it's in the safety deposit box, it is not FDIC insured. They come in, they make sure that you're made whole up to that 250. So if you've got 15,000 in your account, they make sure that you still have access to those funds into your account.
Ahora están hablando de una regulación que el gobierno pasó que básicamente asegura que si tiene una cuenta con un banco, si el banco tiene este tipo de seguro, su dinero está seguro. Entonces, si ese banco se tiene que cerrar por alguna razón o algo pasa, su dinero no está perdido y puede tener hasta $250,000 protegidos con su cuenta de cheques, de ahorros, todas sus cuentas. Lo único que no cubre es si tiene una caja de depósito o una cuenta de inversión, esos no lo cubre, pero asegura que su dinero está protegido.
I think that's it. One thing I do want to cover a little bit, we talked about money orders earlier and writing checks on a checking account. Our bank does sell money orders, which is new because we used to not do that as our previous bank, but we do money orders and cashier's checks. Now we can only do those for our existing customers. So someone just can't walk in and purchase a money order at our bank. They have to be a banking customer. But if you lose a money order in the mail, if you lose a cashier's check, the stop payment on that and the procedure to locate or trace those is a little bit more technical than if you just did a stop payment on a check. I mean, when you say to me, I prefer people not to get money orders because if they get lost in the mail, it seems like it's harder to track those where it is if the check gets lost in the mail, you just do a stop payment and you move forward. But with a money order, you've already put money out. On a cashier's check, you've already put money out to get those instruments. And then if they're lost, the tracking on that takes more time and it takes a while for you to get your money back. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. And also on debit card purchases, that's why it's so good to have online banking to watch your account because you only have so many days in which to file a claim on an unauthorized charge or maybe a fraudulent charge. You can't wait 60 days or 90 days and go, oh, I just noticed, there's been a $50 charge here that I didn't make, because if you get past your time, those claims will not be processed. So you have, I think on is it 45 days?
Yeah.
45 days from the date of the fraudulent or unauthorized charge to make a claim with your bank. And then the bank files a claim with Visa or MasterCard, whoever their debit card company, like ours is Visa. So Visa, then they do an investigation and then they have up to 10 days to reimburse your money back into your checking account. So there's a lot of little things like that I would have never known to ask when I first got into banking years ago. But now that I've been in it, there's just a lot of little things. So if you have a good relationship with someone in your bank, or if you don't, it might be good just to form some type of business relationship with someone. Our banks are always open for you to just come in and talk to us and ask us questions. We have 4 locations. We have one in the Tejas Center next to the Starbucks, connected to the Starbucks at the Tejas Center. Tina's at Welsh across from Consolidated High School and College Station. I'm on University Drive at the corner of Spring Loop and University across from the closed Red Lobster restaurant. And then we have one farther south on William D. Fitch out by Lowe's. But don't hesitate to come and see Tina and I if you just want to talk about your bank or some things that you might have going on that you just need someone to talk to about it and ask, is this the right thing? Was this correct? Or I don't understand. Can you explain why this happened? And let us try to help you with that. I mean, that's what we're there for. And we appreciate y'all letting us come and do the banking class for y'all.
Ella nomás quería mencionar de los money orders, los giros postal. Típicamente dice que ella ahora en su banco en el que ellas trabajan, ellos pueden dar un giro postal, pero lo que ella recomienda son cheques porque son más fácil de trazar. Entonces, si un cheque se pierde, se puede cancelar ese dinero y no se va a perder ese dinero, pero con un giro postal es más difícil hacer eso. Entonces, si necesitas cheques, vaya, cheque con su banco. Y también ella más recomienda tener una buena relación con las personas que trabajan en el banco porque si tienen alguna pregunta, algún producto que puede ser que ustedes quieran, ellos están ahí para hablar con ustedes y si tienen alguna pregunta, dice que ellos están siempre ahí para contestar. Does anybody have any other questions while we have a little bit more time before they have to go? Thank you, Barbara and Tina.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We appreciate it.
And just one more security thing real quick. I mean, while everybody's here, if you get an email that says it's from your bank and, this is going on, that's going on, click this link, your account's been compromised or whatever, don't click the links in the emails. Go to the website that that you have saved, or go to the app or call someone at your bank. Don't click on the links that are in those emails because that's a quick way for people to get information you don't want them to have.
Right. That's actually great because that's what we're going to be talking a little bit more in the next session is the identity theft, but that's a great tip. Phyllis, did you have another question?
What is the difference between the credit unions and just a regular traditional bank?
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. No, in all
Well, a lot of you
honesty,
say go to a credit union. It's good to go to have a credit union.
I'll be honest with you. I have my car financed with Aggieland Credit Union, and I got it financed there because at the time they had a very low interest rate, and our bank wasn't offering that low. And they made me open a little savings account to be able to get the loan. And honestly, I'll be honest, I really don't know. They have their own insurance. Like we have FDIC, the credit union has their own insurance that insures
Right.
their accounts. Typically with a credit union, when you bank there, you're kind of considered like a member of that bank. And so they have different things they'll offer you, like maybe life insurance on the side, that you can get life insurance at a cheaper rate and different things like that. So there may be some member benefits that you get, but honestly, on the financial side of it, I don't really know of.
They're governed a little bit different than us. I don't know details on, what some of the differences are, but some of the regulations are a tad bit different for the credit unions. And then some of them are affiliated with each other. So you could possibly, and I don't know that this is for fact, I'm just giving an example. You could, if you've got a credit union that's in Dallas, you can walk into Aggieland Credit Union and make a payment on your car for the credit union in Dallas, or make a deposit for the credit union in Dallas. It may take a day or two for it to post. I don't know exactly how it works, but some of them are affiliated in that way.
Okay.
Ella nomás quería preguntar cuál es la diferencia de una tarjeta, una cuenta, un banco y una unión de crédito. Dice que de veras no sabe tan mucho la diferencia. La unión de crédito tiene un diferente tipo de seguro y diferente tipo de reglas y nomás depende de lo que ellos ofrecen para sus miembros. Entonces, cada situación es diferente. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, thank you, Barbara and Tina,
Okay,
for
thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank y'all for joining us.
Good night.
we're gonna.
I have a question. Wait, don't wait for me. I do have a question. I'm sorry, everybody that was ready to go. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so look, if you get in like default, like with credit unions or banks and stuff, is it good to pay the debt off or like let it go?
Are you talking about on a loan or like on your checking account if it's negative and they close the checking account and charge it?
Yeah, like accounts like close if you like don't ever pay the payment. So like are those things that like you pay them off or like you just let it go?
Okay. Depending on if it's a loan that you've made and you've gotten behind and then you just could never really get it caught up and you know that they ended up charging it off. On the credit bureau, your loan information is going to stay on all 3 credit reports for up to 7 years before it will fall off. You don't, once it's charged off, you can typically go back and do settlement amounts, you know, and maybe just pay one, like let's say they charged off $500 on a loan and you can go back to them and say, you know, would you be willing to settle it if I could give you 300 and consider it paid? And they would report it to the credit bureau as being paid, but it will be reported as a settlement payment, not that you paid the full amount. If you never do anything on that account, it will drop off after 7 years. But if you let it charge off, and let's say a couple of years later, a collection agency calls you in reference to that, and you give them information, and then you make a few payments, it reactivates that report in that credit bureau. So then from that date forward, it will go for 7 years. So
It starts the clock over.
yeah, it starts the clock over. So if you know you're just never going to do anything on them, you're going to live with that for 7 years. But after 7 years, it will fall off. You know, if you're trying to rebuild your credit, you know, it would be good to pay them to show that you've paid them. And it would be good to try to get, like we partner with Brazos Valley Affordable Housing, and they have a financial fitness center there. And so we do CD secured loans or secured credit cards to help these people reestablish good credit in their checking account. I mean, not in their checking, in their credit bureau, I'm sorry, to help them get some good reports in there to help them build up their credit score. But if your decision is, I can't take care of this, I'm not going to deal with it, I'm just going to let it go, it is what it is, then don't reactivate the time clock by trying to make 1 or 2 payments and then stopping 6 months later trying to make 1 or 2. You either need to commit and get it paid or just let it be. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. And you know, most of you, I know at some point you're looking to try to get a home or buy a home. And so it's good to try to take care of your credit if you can. Medical expenses, medical charge-offs on your credit bureau are not really in a home ownership situation. If you're looking to try to buy a home, they're not going to look at those like they would if you have charged off credit cards or charged off loans. If you have some old stuff that was charged off, but you've got some new stuff on there that's new and you've been making the payment, you know, that's going to help in building up your credit score.
So I have a question.
Okay.
Ms. Barber, do Amarillo Bank still offer the $500 CD? Or
The only we do, but you have to. The only way we can, our bank, it's $1,000 or more to open a CD. The only way that we can do something less, like a 500 or a 750 CD, is if through our partnership with Brazos Valley Affordable Housing, if you're going through their financial fitness center to work on budgeting, rebuilding your credit, we will do a CD secured loan, because we got to get a certificate from them that tells us they are working on rebuilding their credit. And we will do the loan for the 500 and we will put it in a CD. And that CD secures the loan.
yeah,
So, but typically most banks, you're not going to just walk in and do a CD for 500. Typically the minimum starts at 1,000.
okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Come on, Phyllis. I know you got another question.
I think that's all.
Okay.
Well, again, thank you guys, and we take a 6-minute break until 7, and then we'll start with the next class.
Okay. Thank you.
Barbara, and
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Okay.